Had to check to make sure that the microphone was actually on. I tend to forget that when I'm using this headset. Hope you are all doing well. Happy New Year. I'm excited to be with you guys. I hope you can see and hear okay. Let's slide you over a little bit. Make my center screen. Ooh, that's better. I have LED lights out here so that we can see and be seen. I had thought about going out to the chicken tractor and doing it from there tonight, but yep, sound is working. All right, but it gets dark so fast now that I needed some sort of light source. So actually, I'm using one of my Christmas presents to light this deal. My family got me some of these little work lights with a magnet thing for the shop, and they actually work pretty good. Oh, turn away. They work pretty good for live streams. No, we don't want the little bit further. Little bit. There we go. Good evening, Carolyn. How are you? It's good to see you. Uh, Sean, we made one. Is that because it's Thursday? Sean says, Brian. Hello, my friends. I know it's Thursday. It's a rather weird day to have a live stream, but I had the overwhelming desire to kind of hang out with you guys and talk this evening. I hope you don't mind. And I guess if you do mind, you're not here. um, oh, Sean's going on lunch. That's why. Chris, my man, hello. Good to see you. Um, I also kind of thought that it's the middle of the week, sort of, and it would be nice to, maybe have something different go on. Um, it can be kind of the doldrums of the week to kind of get through. We've had some beautiful weather. We've gotten a lot of stuff done around here. I kind of wanted to talk to you about that. Before I get too much further, of course, we must talk tea, my friends. Sean says last several streams were when church started. I'm sorry, my friend. You'll have to send me Sean, send me a list of your schedule, my friend, and I will base all of my live streams around when you're available. If I could, I would. This evening, we are having on sale Winter Spice. That's right, it was on sale. Winter Spice says creates a relaxing moment with sweet apple flavor, savory cinnamon, cardamom, and clove spices. And I will tell you, it is absolutely delicious. I just brewed it. I have to chuck this tea bag out to the garden area. Whoop! All right, tea bag's gone. Oh, where, my friends, should we start? Um, I hope you had a wonderful New Year. I hope you were safe, and if you did travel, I hope you didn't take I-95 because it was a disaster. My youngest sister got married last weekend. She and her fiance apparently started dating on New Year's Eve, I believe, if the story is correct. And so they wanted to get married on New Year's Eve. And while that sounded nice and lovely, it turned into a bit of a travel nightmare because apparently everybody in the world was headed south on 95. The wedding was down in Florida in Jensen Beach. And the whole family got together. As you guys know, I am the second of 7 siblings. So all of us were there. We kind of took over a hotel. It was very nice. Lovely service. Um, Carolyn says, congratulations to your sister and family. Thank you. Um, it's a very kind of stressful event. There was a lot of ancillary things going on, a lot of external pressures. Esther's going to get into a fight with the cat right now behind us, live on Flannel Farms. Um, oh, I'm sorry. Sean says I forgot to tell him when we were leaving, so he could pray for y'all's safety. Well, the Lord knows the desires of the heart, my friend, so he answered your unspoken requests. But she got married down at Jensen Beach, lovely Indian River Park, I believe it was called. Beautiful facility. The everybody was great. Struggled with a little bit of sickness while we were down there. Kind of, it's that time of year. But I'll tell you, traffic going down uh, was egregious. It was absolutely egregious. So we left here at like 9 a.m. and the GPS said we should arrive at our hotel in Benson, Georgia, because we like to stop kind of a little ways before. And holy cow, we didn't get in till I think it was 9:30. It was like a 4-hour delay. We got off the interstate twice and took detours. And finally, when we got about 58 miles, we just stopped and ate dinner. Like we got out of the car and just ate. And we are not moseying kind of travel people. If you guys have noticed from what we put on the channel, we are kind of go-getters. So like the joy is not in the journey for us; it's in getting there. So we stop like when we run out of fuel and those kind of things. Oh, it was a bit of a nightmare. But the hotels were lovely. Kids had a great time. All the cousins were there playing. It was just lovely to be with family. I'm currently on my winter vacation from work, so we took some time off to do that, and now I'm off until roughly the 13th. So we are trying to get a whole bunch of stuff here done in time. RGB, hello. I'm so glad you're here. Um, Sean says I'm absolutely the journey type. I want to see the sights and experience it. Now, not to get off track, but hopefully 2 years from now, ish, maybe three, we hope to purchase a used motorhome. Um, the motor slash RV type with the built-in one, and actually travel the country for a month. And in that case, yes, the whole point is the journey, and we want to take our kids around. My wife's actually never been. She's never been west of the Mississippi. Um, she's been north to Canada. She's been south to Florida, but that's it. She's just kind of done the East Coast thing, so she'd like to see some of that stuff. So we're going to jump into hopefully buy a used kind of smaller RV and just tool the country for that summer. And it's kind of going to be like the last big vacation we have as a family. My oldest is 14, so we're aiming to do it no later than when she's 17, before her adult life starts, and maybe give our kids the opportunity to see it. Then when we get back with the RV, um, we plan on selling it and then just being done with it. Carolyn says not much to see but desert and rocks. Well, I mean, there's Yosemite, there's Yellowstone, Mount Rushmore, Garden of the Gods, like the Alamo, the St. Louis Arch, the Redwoods of California, the Hoover Dam. I mean, there's a lot out there to see. I'd like to see it. I've seen some of it. I'd like to see more. So, let's talk scarcity. Um, Obviously, we posted that video today. That's actually hot off the presses. We filmed that literally this morning, and I was able to get it edited and uploaded, and our internet cooperated. We have satellite internet. It's no good. I was looking at the satellite. It's right there. It's over there. Um, um, but we put the chickens up last night, and Mountain Goddess says, I'm in Northwest Arizona, not far from the Hoover Dam. Cool. Cindy Northam. Hey, y'all. Hey, Cindy. So glad you're here. Um, yeah, we moved those chickens this morning. Actually, last night we were going to put them up in the coop, and we realized that, I mean, we know we have some of the wild flock that you guys have seen just kind of running around the property, but there didn't look like there were enough birds actually in the coop like there should have been. And so we started wandering around with flashlights looking in the trees inside the netted area, and sure enough, there were 8 birds like 14 feet up in a holly tree. So we had to go get a ladder and flashlights, and at like 9:30 at night, Mrs. Flannel and I were out there pulling birds out of the trees. um, oh, hello, RN. Says, hello, Brian. I just realized you were live. Well, so in my defense, I used kind of the same thumbnail twice. I did take a separate picture, but the idea was the same, so it was kind of cheating. Maybe it was lazy YouTubing on my part, but the topic feels kind of big and like we should be talking about it. So we got those birds, and we've had some that have been jumping in and out of the netting. And you can trim flight feathers. We've never done it. I never really wanted to. I don't really like modifying animals. Um, However, I realized if my dog needed a haircut, we'd give Esther a haircut. So trimming the flight feathers doesn't hurt them. It's not like shaving their beaks where they can't, clean themselves and get insects off. They can still do. Um, Sean says scarcity's so deep. We're running out of thumbnails. I should have used that. Man, I need you to be my producer. Just help me get 400,000 subscribers, Sean, and I'll hire you. If it were only so easy. So trimming their flight feathers actually doesn't stop them from being able to do anything. They can still dust bathe and scrape and all those wonderful things. So we went ahead and did it. We realized with kind of the egg prices going crazy that it was a good idea to. Well, I don't want to lose the resource of the birds coming and going from the netting because the netting actually keeps them safe. So Chris says eggs are $8 a dozen at the local food line. 18 count pushes 16 to 18. Wow. That's crazy, man. Yeah, we went to the Walmart up here yesterday, and we rarely look at eggs because typically we have them, but we just kind of stopped and took a look, and 18 eggs was $8.97. I think a dozen was 5.50. It's unbelievable. Yeah, Mountain Goddess says egg prices are crazy, even if they have them, and that's the thing, right? That was kind of the point of the short. Well, I mean, it wasn't a short; it was 3.5 minutes long. It was short for what we normally do, but scarcity doesn't mean that they don't exist. It's supply and demand. So as demand goes up, supply diminishes, or as supply diminishes, demand goes up, and thus causing an increase in cost. And Mountain Goddess says 7.49 at Safeway was the cheapest, $10 for organic. I mean, technically, she said 9.99, but I mean, come on, who's that penny fooling? It's nuts. And here's what's well, here's what I think. Um, RN says eggs are 4.87 to $11 here in Central Alabama. Yeah, yeah. Just a couple of years ago, I mean, they were like 67 cents a dozen. We used to buy the big like 60 pack, and that was like $6, $7. And when we got chickens, I mean, those were the prices when we got our first chickens. And to be honest, it was kind of financial madness to, bother investing in birds. Yeah, Sean says not to mention the artificial inflated scarcity to drive up the prices. It's so yeah. I mean, we first got chickens like 18 years ago, but that's neither here nor there. Just here recently. Don't let me forget to tell you how much my feed prices have gone up. Um, but just a few years ago at Beach Road, when COVID was going on, I spent probably $100 to build a little coop on the back of a barn. And then we bought six. Karen, hello. I'm so glad you're here. Karen says, howdy, everyone. Cooking dinner, so I am listening mode only. Can't be listening for very long. That's okay. You listen away. We will talk a lot for you. Carolyn says, I was in Publix this afternoon. They had Publix brand organic on sale for $3.89 a dozen. They were out, of course, but the whole huge egg section was almost empty. Yeah, so uh RN says I saw potato farms buying potatoes in mass just before the potato shortage. Yeah. So I think I spent $100 to build it and wire it in, and then we bought. I think they were Golden Comets. We bought six Golden Comets. And they were $3 a piece, so it's 18. So for 100 and I bought. You got to buy a brood lamp, and that's 10, $12, and the bulb, and that's $5. Then the chick starter feed. I mean, I was probably 220 bucks into six birds, and even the organic-y type whatever eggs at the time were $3, $4 a dozen. So it would have taken a whole lot to make the money back. But now, I mean, my goodness, I was selling my pasture raised eggs for $4. Yes, Paul, my friend, good to see you. Paul says, as money is printed, the money buys less. Yeah, so since the Fed was enacted, empowered, started, our money has lost 98% of its purchasing power in a little over 100 years. That's insane. That's insane. But now we have roughly, I think we counted, I think we're at 25 layers that are behind netting. And our egg production's finally picked up. I don't know if you guys had that winter slump. A lot of it depends on lighting and how much feed you're stuffing down their throats. But We kind of let them do what they're going to do. We don't do the artificial lighting to try and increase or keep egg production high. I don't increase their feed. We let them forage. So we've been down to 2 to 3 eggs a day from 25 birds for almost a month. But as soon as that winter solstice clicked over and the molting ended, man, our egg production's back up. We're up to 10 eggs a day. Then I expect it to increase from there. I also have another video coming out hopefully in 2 or 3 days. For those of you that do have chickens, this could save you a boatload in feed. Um, we still supplement our birds with feed, even though they're out there free ranging and doing that kind of thing. One of the reasons being egg production. Egg production drops off when they don't have enough of whatever the nutrients they need are for eggs. And free ranging, while it's good and healthy for them, of course, doesn't necessarily provide enough calcium or protein or those kind of things that they need to have peak egg laying. I'm not necessarily trying to stuff feed down their throat to make them, produce as many as possible, but it's important to have a good balance. So I don't know if I've shown you guys my feeders before, but what we've done is we've taken a 90-degree PVC elbow and drilled a hole into a tote or a barrel and then put that 90 inside so it has a little part sticking out. And then you cut the inside so the feed will kind of self-refill. And you can fill up this either a tote. We've been using 2 totes for almost 2 years now. Rick Sterling says, I'm going to get some chickens this spring. Need fresh eggs and the fertilizer. Yeah, man. Absolutely. But you put that in your tote or your barrel, and when you trim that edge around, it becomes an auto feeder. So you can fill it and forget it. And if you make, I don't know how to phrase this exactly. We have roughly 30 birds in there, and I only have 4 openings. So they can't just go and gorge themselves on it, and they all kind of take turns and peck at it. So it kind of is a self-regulating thing. The beautiful thing about it too, besides keeping your feed dry and available to them, and it being a self-feeder, so you can fill it depending on the size of the container and not have to worry about their feed for days, is it keeps them from scratching through the grain to find the bits they like, right? Because chickens are incredibly wasteful. I've seen numbers online. I don't know how you would necessarily judge this. I guess how often you have to buy feed. That chickens will waste something like 30% of their feed. And most feeders are open or they have like a little place where it falls into it, but they poop on that. It gets wet. Like if it rains, you have to hang it to keep pests out. Like it's a big pain in the neck. And this system, we've been using it for, gosh, 4 or 5 years now, and I realized I don't think I've ever made a video on how to do it. And you could save a lot in costs. And it's a good thing too, because I went to Buck, my feed guy, and my friend. We're friends. It's official. We traded Christmas presents. Actually, that's where I got this lovely flannel mug. Do you see that? It says merry and bright. It's lovely. Thanks, Buck. It's delicious. But a barrel of feed when I moved in, 16 months ago, was $50. About 6 months ago, it went up to $60 a barrel, which, I mean, I understand gas prices and everything else. I mean, it costs money. I just got told they're going to $90 a barrel for a 55-gallon drum of feed. This is also what the pigs eat. The pigs and the chickens eat the same thing. Now, of course, they all are foraging, and we feed them as much scraps as we can, but I still have 6 pigs on the property. I'm going through feed pretty quickly. And so, yeah, and I mean, it makes sense. Basically, he mixes in all of the diatomaceous earth and the different nutrients. So, hey, Jennifer K, so glad you're here. Yeah, Mountain Goddess says, I still buy it by the bag. I need to rethink that. Yeah, if you can find a local feed person, or a mill or something like that, a lot of the independent farmers sell feed and they'll sell it right to independent people like me. I just show up with the barrels in the back of a truck or on a trailer. And even if you don't have a tractor, and I meant to mention this in the video, but I forgot, um, you can transfer the feed out of the barrels in the back of your truck or on your trailer into barrels on the ground using smaller buckets. It's a bit more labor intensive, but it's a boatload cheaper than buying a tractor. I mean, our tractor was used and it was $5,500. So, I mean, how long does it take to work up $5,500? Rick Sterling says, "I have a Jeep, no tractor. It get dirty." Oh my goodness. Um, Mountain Goddess said, "We are in the high desert, so no free ranging here, and we've got so many predators, but I grow a lot of food that I share with them." Yeah, awesome. High desert. That's a stark beauty up there. Um, yeah, we're rethinking some feed stuff too. I mean, Billy from Permapastures has got some systems banged out. Sean says it would be cheaper for me to buy a tractor here and transport it to Alabama than buy one up there. Sometimes that's the case, man. I bought mine. It was 90 minutes away in an even more rural area than I live. So I have a truck and trailer that I was able to transport it on. Yeah, Dan Fay says, "I know Budweiser's and New Hampshire's gives away their grain and etc. after they brew." Matthew says, "Saw you were live. I only have a minute, but at least wanted to say hello." Well, thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that. Mountain says, "What about growing hemp for feed?" Yeah, hemp, comfrey, grasses, radish, turnips. There's a lot of things that were traditionally grown for animal feed. Oh, Matthew, before you leave, hit the thumbs up button, my friend. There, see that? I did a plug. I always forget to do that. If you haven't, there's 28 of you watching and only 19 thumbs up, and that makes me sad. You don't want us to be sad. You want me to see me cry flannel tears. Hmm. Ah. Hello, Arden. Good to see you, my friend. Arden says one of the nearby farms is selling 50-pound bags of cracked corn for $10 a bag. We're hoping to feed this to the chickens and supplement. What do you think about that? Yeah, $10 a bag isn't bad. Um, I don't know if chickens need cracked. You probably could do it whole corn. I'd have to do some research to be honest. But yes, you would definitely have to supplement because if you want them to get if you want them to get fat, corn is the way to go. Corn has. Thank you guys. We're up to 24 thumbs. I appreciate that. Thank you kindly. 25 thumbs. Woohoo! Going once, going twice. So, corn has a lot of good times homestead. Hello, Jen and Steve. So good to see you. Betty says a recipe for homemade sod to crack the corn. I'm not sure. Chris Stubb says whole corn soaked for 24 hours. There you go. Soaked in what, my friend? You would definitely have to supplement because corn doesn't have the calcium or protein that they need. Now you might be able to buy the raw material and mix it and do that type of thing, but I don't know that you're going to be that much different than if you went to a local feed person. Yeah, Carolyn says soy gum also grows easily. Betty says they stop feeding corn in the hottest parts of the summer. Soaks are great in corn also. Yeah, soak them in water. Yeah, sunflower seeds work. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. What we're going to do with the pigs actually is we're going to continue to cull the herd. That was the point. But I'm ordering more of those little plastic insulators that we screwed to the trees. And I'm going to try and enclose like 2 more acres for pig feed. The downside about the pigs not getting as much grain is they don't get as fat, and the fat is extremely useful. Butter's expensive, oil is expensive, so the lard that you get out of pigs is incredibly handy. My aunt actually is going to make some soap out of the lard, so we gave her 4 quarts, I think, of lard, and she's going to see if she can make some soap out of that and see how that goes. But yes, the areas the pigs are in is currently too wooded to really grow anything else for feed for them. unless it does really well in shade. And there are some things that grow well in shade. It just doesn't get as thick. So, but we're going to definitely enclose a bigger area, and I think we're actually going to reduce our pig herd size and kind of keep it smaller. Um, no, Sean asked if I fed them like charcoal. I don't. Um, Chris says soak all your grains in water, cracked or not, and it stretches for 2 to 3 days. Yeah, man, we got to stretch everything we can stretch right now. This is really good tea. So, Matthew says, "Got to go relieve the wife. Kids are taken back about special dinner they asked for after giving me a hard time all day." Good luck, Matthew. Godspeed, my friend. Um, yeah, so we're gonna work on the feed with the pigs, and I think what we're gonna start doing is probably, as you guys know, selling the meat is illegal. So if I do end up with pigs that get to full size, I think we're gonna just sell hogs ready to butcher. Um, does anybody know if you can freeze cooked? Let me see that again. Does anybody know if you could freeze cooked pork ribs in Mylar bag with an oxygen sensor? I don't see why not. Um, yeah, I don't know why you couldn't freeze cooked pork. I don't know what it would taste like on the other side. Sean says Joe Allen and Billy both do, and I was listening to this audio and how the nutrients in the char made healthier animals historically and lead us to being healthier when we ate them. Huh. I got plenty of charcoal around, so I'll throw some in there. Why not? I mean, they eat what they like, so. Excuse me. Sorry, we don't have our good mic set up. I don't know if I mentioned that, but my wife's phone is out of data. Won't have any more for another month. Um, yeah, Sean says biochar, though, not that chemical nonsense. Yeah, of course. And yeah, so I cannot use the good microphone with my old cellular device, so we had to revert back to our headset. But next week, my friends, we will be back on the good microphone. Anita, hello. So good to see you. Um, oh, nice. Arden says canning sausage hash tonight. That's amazing. Yeah, man, we need to get stuff put up, man. Guys, we got to be careful. So, I don't know if you guys have read The Fourth Turning or not, but typically there are. Dan says, "What about hitting restaurant, grocery stores for food they throw away?" So actually, I tried at the local Walmart, and they have like a lock on the one they throw food in. It's insane. Um, Here's the problem with trying to get feed or like the hops from Budweiser or whatever. There's two. Oh, thank you, Carolyn. Carolyn says your audio is just fine. You can hear and see nicely. Wonderful. Is typically somebody's already gotten to the brewer before you. So I've stopped at a couple brew places in the city that I work in, and they're all already taken. The other problem is logistically, you have to get enough to make it worth going. So, I mean, I might be able to stop by some mom and pop places and pick up, a couple barrels here and there, but it it's just hard to justify, how long do you run around picking up feed? So, um, Betty said Billy from Bird Pastures went to the public school and feeds his for free. That's true. And actually, I'm in talks. You beat me to the punch, Betty. Gosh, don't even have nothing anymore. Um, one of my friends in the fire department's wife works at a fairly local school, and we're in talks to kind of do like farm day with them in trade for the slop, if you will, from their cafeteria. Hi, cowboy. Good to see you. I should pull the hair down so you can. Me and Cowboy have a running joke about my hair. uh, so there is the possibility that we are going to get on board with. Oh, thank you, Cowboy. with a school, and that might help a lot with that feed. So it is a possibility. Um, the one of the problems is some of the schools are worried about liability. Like if they give you the feed and you feed it to your animal and your animal dies, they don't want to get in trouble. We're in a very litigious society, so it can be egregious. So Betty says they said no at the school. He went to the school board, asked tongue in cheek if it was because he was a certain shade, and they gave permission. See, Betty, I can't throw that card. Ugh. But yes, there are ways. Um, well, yeah, Betty says say it's for composting, not for feed. That's kind of the route we're gonna go. Sean says that I can identify as black. Yeah, I just identify as oppressed, right? Um, that's all. I can just do that. I feel like help, help! I'm being oppressed. You saw him. You saw him oppressing me. Isn't that messed up? It's so messed up. Um, ugh. So my speaking of, let's discuss. Let's talk about race for a minute. Why not? Let's jump right in. See how YouTube likes this. I did the service for my sister's wedding. Um, as you know, my father is no longer with us. Otherwise, he would have done it. So I was the stand-in, and the fellow she's marrying is a Christian from the sub-Asian continent of India, Indian. He was born and raised here. His parents are Christians, grandparents are Christians, um, and I believe they met at a church type function. He's a godly man with a yeah. But anyways, um, there can be a lot of hubbubaloo about culture these days. Now, a term I haven't heard a lot lately is melting pot. It used to be, right, that a bunch of cultures came here to America, and the best of what they had to offer got spread kind of throughout the country. I mean, a lot of our dishes are kind of modified versions of what they used to eat in the old country, wherever the old country might have been. If you listen to bluegrass, it sounds a lot like kind of Scottish, like traditional, Highland without the bagpipes type music. I mean, there are Chinese restaurants everywhere, even though it's kind of an Americanized version. Um, all these things, right? I mean, the fact that we even have a St. Patrick's Day here is because of the Irish influences. There's jazz and soul music. So much of soul food is from the African American culture. There are so many things, and it used to be that we would take all the best parts of each other's cultures, right? And we would kind of put them together in this big melting pot, and that was America. And I mentioned this. This is in what I mentioned in the wedding, and now, right? If I put my hair in dreads because I think dreadlocks are the coolest thing from that culture, and I want to emulate it, I'm now appropriating culture. Imitation used to be the highest form of flattery. I mean, people who aren't Irish wear green on St. Patrick's Day. Why? Because deep down, everybody kind of wants to be Irish for some reason. So we adopt it, right? You imitate it, you put it on, not in an exploitative manner, right? In a respectful manner, in a fun way. And that's not allowed anymore, right? You can't imitate the culture because that's appropriating it. You also can't possibly understand any other culture because you're not in it. And if you try to, you're also racist. Like there's no way to do this, right? And Sean says Sean says I don't wear green because I'm not a dirty papist. I wear orange. Ellen says, I'm so sick of hearing about race this and race that. Why can't we realize that we are all human? Live for the Lord and one another. Reputations Is BS. Sorry for the rant. No, Ellen, we're getting there. Um, and so I mentioned that there's actually really only two cultures. There's only two cultures in the entire world. That's it. Two. There are those that believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross to pay for their sins and are the redeemed of the Lord, and there are those who do not believe that. That's it. There's two. Two types. The saved and the lost. That's it. And Samson and my sister are both believers. Jeremy, you've missed everything. Start over. Um, and they love the Lord, so the culture of their house will be the culture of Christ, right? When we put Christ on, there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female. We are one in Christ. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not a girl, and that doesn't mean that you're not a boy, and that doesn't mean that he's not Indian, that doesn't mean that she's not a white girl who wears Uggs and, drinks those things. Drinks that pumpkin spice. Um, it's a culture of life instead of a culture of death, right? The enemy hates life. Now, are the two of them going to have some interesting conversations about what traditions they follow, and all those types of things? Of course. Yeah, Sean says I've used people to justify transgenderism. Yeah, we're not doing that with that verse. That is not what that is meant for. What it does is it elevates every culture and both sexes to equality. Okay, we have different roles, we have different responsibilities, but the value of the individual, okay, regardless of race, in quotation marks, in case you're listening, because we are the human race. There are different cultures. There are not different races. Race is trash. Culture is everything. So you can have the culture of Christ and the culture of life and blend your lives together. And it doesn't matter what you were raised as, because we were all lost. We were all children of our father, the devil, until we were redeemed by Christ. And so, will they have some knocking of heads as they try and blend their lives together? Of course they will. Do you know anyone who has ever gotten married that never had any issue at all whatsoever trying to figure out how to blend their lives? There's going to be challenges. But Jeremy says my favorite race is NASCAR. Nah, man, Indy. I like them Indy cars. Um, and of course, I say that there's no race, and then I'll get told that's because I'm white and racist. But whatever. I don't care. I tongue in cheek, I want to make a shirt that says "Number One Colonizer" with an arrow pointing up. Because if I'm going to get blamed for it, you might as well take credit for it. Oh my goodness. We act like history started like 150, 200 years ago when people have been enslaving each other since the dawn of time. I mean, the Roman Empire was built on slavery, and yet we seem to really like a lot of stuff the Romans did, and we laud the culture and all these things when like up to I think 30% of the culture were slaves. I mean, it's always been when one village got a little bit bigger than another village, they went nom 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 and they ate the village and then they carted off the people and they were slaves. I mean, that's just always the way it's been. Uh, yes, Mountain Goddess, absolutely. Says we are still slaves. You are correct. And and not only are we still slaves, I got something even better for you. We're meant to be slaves. We were built to be slaves. Did you know that? All of us. We don't really do well with freedom. We don't. We were built to be slaves. Now, the caveat to that is what were we built to be slaves to? Right? Does this mean we don't have free will and things like that? No, of course we have free will and those kind of things. What I'm saying is we have the right to be a slave. Those of us that are saved have a right to be a slave to the gospel of Christ, right? We have the right to be a slave to the Lord. So Yes, and Anita says freedom from God is prison for us. Absolutely. Right? We were a slave to our sins. You're one or the other. You're either a slave to your sin or you're a slave to the Most High God. And not that He calls us slaves, right? He has called us sons and daughters. We have been adopted, right? He has adopted us in. He has elevated us from slavery. And yet we are to serve. We are to pick up our cross daily and follow Him. So we are born. We are born to serve something. We are born to desire a higher calling than just going to work and going home and making paper money that they're devaluing at a rate that's unbelievable and, sitting down and watching Netflix or, indulging in our passions. That's not what we're made for, guys. We're made for so much more than that. So much more than that. Storing up our crowns in eternity. So, is there really scarcity? I was reading a Revelation where the sorry, I got a little passionate there. I'll try and bring it back down. Whew, whew. Ugh, that's decaf tea. Decaf tea. All right, fired up. I get a little soapboxy sometimes. Um, one of the writers who was released was the writer of Scarcity, and it says it'll cost you a day's wages for a loaf of bread, or a day's wages to feed your animal, like one animal. So here's the thing, guys. Here's what we need to remember as we are faced with what is happening. Man is basically evil, and therefore governments are essentially evil. They are power hungry. They are run by basically little tyrants. They want to control every aspect of our lives. They also want us dead. They want us dead because they are of their father, the devil. And what does the devil hate? The devil hates life. This explains everything when you look at government, okay? This is why government won't fix this problem. They can make the problem, they cannot fix the problem. Only God can fix the problem. Governments can be okay for a little while, but if you've ever read the Old Testament, right, where they literally had God's word like handed to them by God, and the kings, right? Just read through the kings, and for hundreds of years, right? Evil king, evil king, evil king, evil king. He ruled for 20 years and he was wicked and he died. And then this guy showed up and he ruled for 30 years and he was wicked and he died. And this dude showed up. And I never really realized it before. But when you're reading those time frames, I mean, I'm only 40 years old, right? So there were periods, right, where those people never had a good government ever. And for decades and decades and decades, there was evil, there was oppression, there was famine, there was pestilence, right? Generations went through this stuff. So why would we expect any different now, right? And I think uh, the virus kind of knocked some of the blinders off for some of us and showed us what governments are actually all about. And if they serve their father, the devil, there's two cultures, right? If our government is not actively pursuing uh, the will of God, then they're pursuing the will of the devil. The end. And the devil wants you dead. The devil wants humans dead. So why would the government be any different? So there's nothing they can do that's going to help, and everything they do. I mean, you guys know. I mean, for Pete's sake, they just passed that bill. One of the things that was in it, in 5 years, all cars are supposed to have a kill switch in them. Oh, and they're also supposed to tell if you're impaired and then shut themselves off. I mean, what? This is insane. Carolyn says the one okay government I remember was 80 to 88, which was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan introduced no-fault divorce in California, which I think was one of the beginning of the ends or of the American family, of the nuclear family, right? You used to have a reason to get divorced. And Ronald Reagan was the governor who signed that bill into law. And I don't think he was as evil as others. And I'm not. I mean, I was born in '82, so I have not done a whole bunch of studying into it. But we know that some of the things that started destroying families were the Lyndon B. Johnson's war on poverty and things like that. So, yeah. So here's what we need to do, gang, going forward, right? And I know you guys know this, but as always, right, I want to encourage you. I feel like I am an exhorter, right? I want to spur you on to love and good works because we can look at the news, we can listen to the talk shows, and we can read the talking heads. Wheat is next, by the way. It's going to get even more scarce than it is because the harvests from last year, we got most of them in, but it's going to be ugly next year. So if you're into wheat, if you can store wheat, do that. Otherwise, start modifying your diet now as best you can so that we can afford to live and keep eating. Yeah, Arden says in the early American times you had to go before the state legislator to get approved for a divorce. So, but here's what we need to do moving forward. Okay, as many things. Yeah, Sean says, "Oh, you said wheat, not weed." Yes, wheat, wheat. Um, keep an eye on the times, right? But we can go crazy. We can go crazy looking at the news because we wonder what we just yeah. It can make you crazy. Make as many things as you can. I would start buying, if you haven't already, non-perishable foods in quantities that you can afford in small bits when you go to the grocery store. Spend an extra $10 in grain, in rice. Rice is going to get scarce too. Um, rice, beans, dry things that you basically only need water. It might not be tasty, but start. I mean, three or 4 months um, into at least. If you can keep adding to that supply, do it. If you can get a year's worth of food stored up, that'd be amazing. Um, I mean, I'm if I'd have bought feed last week, if I'd have filled my 5 barrels, I'd have saved $100. I mean, just that quick, just 1 week later. So do that. Start to at least. Oh, Rick says I have lots of freezer dried foods plus canned food and freezing. Man, I want to try freeze drying. If you have a freeze dryer, I'll rent it from you, Rick. Start petitioning local governments as best you can to allow you to grow and make your own food, like chickens in your backyard. It's egregious that we can't just have these little amazing creatures that will turn your kitchen scraps into delicious eggs and chicken. Not that chickens will save the world, but it's good to have something. And eggs are so nutritious. Um, Jeremy says, "What do you think about those prepper food buckets like my Patriot Supply?" Uh, I I have never purchased them myself, so take this with a grain of salt. But I think they're fantastic, and I'll tell you why. In terms of emergency food, it is far cheaper to buy those than to try and make your own. Um, yeah, Jeremy, those emergency buckets they sell at Costco, wildly cheaper. Okay, I spent I spent $300 on the Solar Brain just to run the netting. That I also spent, I think it was 160. So I spent 300, 620, right? $620 to yeah, Tay Tay says we could live off fresh eggs if push comes to shove. But $600 just to fence in my chickens and keep them safe from predators. Um, Not to mention the coop and then the feed and the barrels and buying the chickens and things like that. Well, I mean, how much would $800 get you from Patriot Supply? Now, granted, that's a finite supply, and my chickens keep providing, and there's a whole type of whatever argument you could go into. But if you don't have the land, if you live in an HOA, I would implore you to get some sort of long-term 25-year storage food. Yeah, Carolyn says I have some freeze-dried food from Patriot Supply. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I have a full-time job, so trying to prepare a lot of these things yourself is extremely difficult to do. It's extremely time-consuming. So if you can set aside 20 or $30 a week for, 4 or 5 months and then buy a boatload of freeze-dried food, yeah, I am all for that. You can bankrupt yourself trying to make your own food. Um, so yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100% I would buy those. Especially for the variety that they have. I mean, you can just go buy beans and rice and live, but the Patriot Supply, if you can afford it, or whatever other company. By the way, my Patriot Supply, if you're watching, I'll do a video about you if you send me some of your food. Um, it is, yeah, it is a thing. And here's, I don't think the apocalypse is going to happen, guys. I don't think that zombies are going to roam the streets. I don't necessarily think that it's going to get that serious, but I do think we could go broke trying to feed ourselves. Um, I think it's possible, like the power supply is fragile. We don't really make enough gasoline that these things could get so expensive. I mean, we had rolling brownouts during that. I didn't have them here, but my sister was in North Carolina and they had rolling brownouts during that cold period. She'd have power on for an hour and power off, and it wasn't enough to thaw their water because there wasn't enough power. I mean, are we not the United States of America? How is it we don't have enough power? Uh, because the government wants you dead. That's why. But anyways, so I think it's quite possible. Tay Tay says you're right. The zombies come after we're gone. I think half the people that are alive right now are zombies, but that's a different story. Um, I think it's going to be much more that things are harder than they need to be, more expensive than they need to be, and I think we're starting to see those things now. Um, with the egg prices going crazy, right? They want to outlaw meat and things like that. So I think it's going to be more along those lines. Now, it might be catastrophic, but I think you should have 6 months to a year's worth of food for any reason. 3 months is be great. 3 months is good. That's a good starting place. But 6 months to a year worth of food for almost any reason. I mean, I had heart surgery, right? I was, yeah. Mountain Goddess says, you will eat the bugs. Um, oh, what's that guy's name? The big architect of all that nonsense, the German guy. He's like 96 years old. I want to say Martin Sheen, but I know that's not right. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The Puppet Master. Anyways, if I say his name, I'll probably get banned. Klaus, yeah, Klaus Schwab. That's right, that guy. I love you guys. You are like the smartest viewers on YouTube, I think. Um, I think you guys tune in just to help keep me in check and educate me. But you never know what's going to happen. Back to heart surgery, right? So I had heart surgery. I was out of commission for like 2 months. And what if I lost my job? Like, what if it would take me another 2 months to get a job? What if I had complications? Like, would my family eat? They might not be able to run out there and butcher pigs and do all that stuff, but we had food stored up. And we were able to provide, fresh food for my mom who came up. And yeah, Chris Stubbs says y'all are quick. For those of you who are listening after the fact, like everyone said Klaus Schwab, Schwab, Klaus Schwab, Schwab. Like this, the chat just got spammed. There's going to be like a spike in the chat algorithms. Um, but yeah, I think if it does get to the point where we end up like having to, um, let's say, move from one state to another for no particular reason because the country's falling apart, literally, you're going to want to be able to take some food with you. Tay Tay says these lives are awesome, like hanging out with a friend. That's how I feel about you guys. Oh, you're my friends. Um, that's why I do these. I love hanging out with you guys. It's a bright spot in my week. Not that my weeks are dark. I have great weeks. I'm okay. I'm not sad. It's fine. Um, no, you guys are great, and I really enjoy it. But you don't know what's going to happen in life, right? If the country ends up splitting apart, you're going to want to have some food to take with you, right? Especially those that can be stored. Um, Carolyn, I'll look into that. She says become an affiliate with My Patriot Supply. I might look into it. I might not. I might forget. I tend to forget stuff. Send me an email. So it's not just the fact that the world might fall apart or that the country could split or the power grid could go down, right? You don't know. You could break an ankle and be out of work. And then you need food. I mean, for thousands of years, our people, humans stored food through the winter. And while they couldn't find it or couldn't hunt or couldn't whatever, I mean, storing food It was a natural part of life. It was not weird to preserve things, to process them. It was normal. And in the past 100 years, we've gotten away from that. And I think it's very, very dangerous. Um, because all we need is some outbreak of something that's really deadly, and they'll just shut stuff down and you starve. So I think we need 6 months to a year for well, a bunch of reasons, but two main reasons. One, if there's a short term type thing that happens, like losing a job, an illness, whatever, that you can weather that thing if you had no income. Yeah, Mountain says now you're considered a wackadoo if you prep. The other reason is if things do go cataclysmic, right? Let's say that the power grid collapses and the whole thing happens where the power goes out in the cities and there's no food. Civilization collapses in roughly 3 days with no food or water. Um, so that happens and you survive. Let's say you survive that first 3 days. You're not part of the 90%. Okay, now what? Now what? And there's all kinds of post-apocalyptic books. But are you going to be able to hunt for your food? Are you going to be able to grow your food? The thing is, hey, it's my brother. He says, we'll live. Woohoo. Yes, we will. Good evening, my brother. It's good to see you. You never called me. You show up here, but you don't call. You don't return my calls. I had good news for you. And you wouldn't call me. Anyways, actually, I could tell you here if you're still paying attention. Um, there will be plenty of land available if 90% of the population is dead. Okay, there will be things that you will be able to find, scrounge and plant and grow. But he said I'm an introvert. Oh my goodness. So if you have enough food to hunker down and weather out that first, 2 weeks or so, and then you have enough food to live on while you make more food, then you'll be fine. So you don't necessarily. Oh, Mountain Goddess says, David, is why I know about your channel. I think that's why 80% of you know about my channel. um, you'll be able to switch gears. Okay. So I don't think you have to have the entire world saved up forever, but I think 6 months to a year so that we can gauge, right? We can gauge how long it will take to flip gears into, hey, this is turning into a actual crisis where the whole world is going to end. And now we need to, completely switch and go total caveman. Yeah. Okay. So I have a special announcement, and I'm glad my brother is here. I don't know if he's going to participate or not, but February 11th, Sean the Modern Yeoman. For those that you don't know, Sean's a buddy of mine. We met through the YouTubes, and we've talked to each other a bunch of times, and now we like our phone consult fellers. Is butchering a pig. It's the first time he's butchered a pig on his homestead. Not only is he going to be there, but Billy from Permapastures is going to be there. And the Kramer Life, they're going to be there. It's possible that Justro from Metcalf Mills is going to be there. I'm going to be there. And my brother, you are invited as well. So yes, it's quite possible you will have David the Good, myself, Sean, Billy, Justro, the Kramers, and potentially they're looking at Jason from Sow the Land. Billy and him are buddies, so they're talking about having him come out as well. So it might be like a mini YouTube homesteading thing. They have 2 pigs to do, and I believe it's a Saturday. I don't think we're going to be live streaming it necessarily. Somebody might, I don't know, but I think everyone is going to be filming it, and it's going to be a very. Carolyn says, "I hope the whole thing is live streamed." I might try. I have the wrong phone for it, so I don't know. I'll have to figure something out. Maybe I'll trade phones with the missus, and she can, or maybe I'll just buy a newer phone before I go. I hate spending money on phones, but I would do it. I would do it for you people. I would buy a phone. So yes, my brother, if you do want to go, I did talk to Sean. You are more than welcome. He is super excited. So we need to work out some logistical stuff. So maybe if you would actually call me on my phone. we could work it out. Anyhow, my friends, I am starting to get cold. I don't know if you see my breath. I can see it. I'm freezing. So I'm going to go inside. But thank you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on a Thursday of all nights. I know it was weird, but I wanted to hang out with you guys. Yes, Carolyn, February 11th. It's a Saturday. If I do end up live streaming I will let you guys know well in advance. I'll throw up a short, I'll throw up a post. I will do my best to let you guys know as quickly as possible that it's going to be alive. And yeah, I think it would be a great time. So don't fear. Okay, we're going to make it through these times. You guys are smart. You guys are on it. And it's a privilege to be associated with you. May God bless you and keep you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye.